So let's look at some of the things that managers were saying in stage one. So autocratic, process-oriented, top-down approach, black and white, and my way or the highway. In the second stage, we really see focus on managers can learn and make mistakes. And that's really an important thing when managers have the freedom to adapt. Often frustration arises in learning to communicate and to adapt the task for limited skilled members. As the paradigm shifts from a process-centric organization to a people-centric organization, there's confusion, frustration, and fear in working with limited skill employees to enable them to be successful. The third stage of learning, the inclusive management style, is achieved when the manager fully absorbs and incorporates the desired management style in their daily interaction and problem solving with team members. Substantial emphasis is on performance improvement, job coaching, mentoring, job adaptation, re-engineering, job transfer, and accommodations based on the specific nature of the individual's limited skill. Finding number two looks at what empowers managers to integrate and develop employees with limited skill to fit the distinctively unique organizational culture with a substantial emphasis on making limited skill members successful in meeting job performance requirements without resorting to punitive measures or the reliance on autocratic management style. In an inclusive organizational culture, the employee is just as important as production. They hold an equal importance. The inclusive management process can be divided into three parts, and the figure 3 here describes them. The first is the foundational value of leading with humility. The second is the principle of leadership of building an authentic relationship with the employee. And finally, the action imperative. Solve problems by adapting and innovating. This is what the managers described to us in their answers, and we put into this model. So number one, here are some of the quotes that are employee-centric. It pushes out our pride. I have drive and others don't, so I have to sacrifice it to get the best out of others. So putting the employee first. Fear and uncertainty of whether disabled employees will be able to perform and meet performance standards. Not understanding the nature of disability and how to work with disabled employees. These are some of the fears or the stressors, the internal barriers that they talk to us about, or at least that they had and that they have overcome. In the distribution centers, the training does not use a structured approach, but rather uses an ongoing learning by doing process. Managers are not told about the type of disability their team members have, as this is an confidential employee information and is protected under law. Employees must self-disclose their disability. The second piece is the build authentic relationship. This principle in an inclusive manager can be broken down in 4 different parts. The first is this coaching component about staying positive, determining what motivates each individual, and demonstrating patience. So when you go through the distribution center at Anderson, South Carolina, you can see different stickers next to the workstations of different employees. And just because somebody found that money doesn't motivate, but maybe some type of sticker reward motivates. They also have changed the visual graphs about when a student is, an individual is underperforming, so it's maybe a yellow, and if they're way underperforming, it's red, and if they're above the target, it's green, and so those visual helps really are helpful. Also in the coaching, you have the celebrating small success and also the correcting. In short, both coaching and correction are used to hold team members accountable. But you have to have a relationship with the team member to have accountability. It is the individual focus on the team member that is the distinguishing cultural characteristic. So here really the focus, as we see in the third action imperative, is problem solving and thinking outside the box. And these out of the box thinking really helps not just the people with disability, but it helps the whole plant. And so, for example, one of the innovations that you can see on the line there is they created a big button when a task is finished. So previously they had to type something into a keyboard. Now they just have a big button, so somebody maybe with cerebral palsy can easily just hit the button. Well, that benefit or that adaptation is not restricted just for that workstation. It really was used throughout the whole distribution center. So those innovations help everybody in the plant. The adaptive also here is seen by adapting or flexing the management style, understanding different ways of motivating, and finally the structure. For people with disability, they talk about relying on structure, physically and emotional change. It really impacts people with disabilities. In conclusion, our findings were that Walgreens supported and expects managers to adapt their management style, and that managers described an inclusive management style to fit the unique organizational culture. There are three main implications of our study. The first one is to examine the capacity constraints of relational-based leadership, because we're finding that this distribution center actually exceeds the management targets. The second is to replicate the model and to see if we can adapt this model across the Walgreens locations, either for further implementation in Walgreens or also looking outside of Walgreens to other organizations. Number three, to further examine the balance between structure and flexibility necessary to enable managers' adaptation and learning. We really have discovered some very interesting things through our research at Walgreens, and our next step is to research a similar distribution center in Connecticut, also at Walgreens, that has about 40-45% of their employees with disability. And so then we'll compare to really improve the model and to detail it even further. But in conclusion, one of the posters that you will see if you come into the distribution center is this picture of them crossed out. And this is really explaining that there's no people with disability, without disability. There's not any kind of different grouping of people, but they are one group. That's just right when you walk in the door, and it's about the size of a person. So this has really been a very encouraging research, and we believe there's a lot of application possible in creating very flexible organizations. And if the catalyst is employees with disability, but there could be other catalysts like the international, a mix of the employees working But we really feel that Walgreens has tapped into a very complex environment and is doing very well in making that work.